Thank you, guys.
Hello.
Hey, we're the Schmutz Company. My name's Don, and this is Dave.
Hello.
And we like to make things. I tend to make things with cameras and computers, some things that aren't working right this second. But we'll get that all worked out. Dave likes to make things with his hands, and I think that's kind of fascinating. In fact, it looks like he's about to make something now. What do you think you're making over there, Dave?
I have no idea, but I'm relieved that it doesn't relate to wires or electricity.
I would be too. Well, okay, fair enough. You don't know what you're making yet. That's kind of cool still. But what's kind of neat, especially for me, somebody that makes things with technology, is to see somebody that makes things handmade, like Dave. And one thing that I notice kind of happens, and Dave's talked about this happening before to me, is that people tend to ask when they first see him completing something or something that's just been done, did you make that?
Yeah, that's well, you know that I made this because we work together and you know me. But a lot of folks will see me making things and they'll say, oh, did you make that? And I sort of wonder, do they doubt that I made it? Or like, did I get this somewhere? Is there somebody in the back making things and handing them to me? And it just comes naturally to me, so I think the question's kind of strange. And I get comments like, well, I could do that, or, oh, I could never do that. And one guy said, I could do that if only I had one of those little sticks that you have. And I said, well, I know where to get them. We'll see what happens. Actually, the first time I met Don, I would say probably one of the first questions he asked me is, did you make that? We met 8 years ago working at a credit bureau together. I have a degree in puppetry, and it's not always as useful as it sounds. So still you need a job in healthcare and everything, so I ended up working at a credit bureau with a puppetry degree. They're like, this is a credit bureau, right? I said, yeah, well, you have a flat surface, like a desk I can work on, that's good enough. And they said, who are we going to get to train this nut? And so they picked this nut to train me. And we're in a cubicle together the first day training, and I'm not paying any attention. He's giving me the basic parameters of how to make it look like I'm going to do this job, which I never really did. And I'm looking at the photographs in his cubicle of his wife, his friends, this rhinoceros's butt, and he's like, you're not really paying attention, are you? I said, no, I make things. And what kind of things do you make? And they gave me my own little cubicle desk where I was doing this exact same kind of thing while people were trying to get credit reports or whatever. And so 3 years later, here we are. We form an animation puppetry creature company. And those questions that I get, did you make that? That really surprises me. And the follow-up question, why did you make that? That kind of blows my mind, and that's what we're going to kind of talk about here today.
Yeah. So Dave, why do you think that you make things?
Well, I think up front, obviously, it's for the money, the power, the women. Unfortunately, I don't have access to any of those things. I do this because I have some inherent need to make things. I always have, The answer probably lies not in any sort of cognitive decision that I've made over the years, but more so in the influence that the creative adults around me have had coming up as a kid. And also, it's sort of hardwired into who I am as a human being. So I'm interested in exploring the significance of hand-making things, the kinship among thing makers, the humanity and history of tinkering, building, crafting, that sense of heritage, the present of my own and other people's thing-making, the future of thing-making, thing-making.
So would you say then that all of that heritage, all that lineage of thing making, has it sort of made you into a thing maker? Would you say that you were a born thing maker, or that it's been your environment that's taught you?
It's going to be a mix of nature and nurture. I've been making things as long as I can remember, so I can assume that I was born a thing maker. But at the same time, the influences I've had from teachers, mentors, relatives, colleagues, and learning new techniques, methods, materials to use has been invaluable. For example, my mom is a quilter and my dad is an embalmer, and I'm a puppeteer. So
put those two together.
Yeah,
that's what you get.
Quilter plus embalmer equals puppeteer. Right? So, and I also have a lot of my great Uncle John's characteristics and personality and his tools that I inherited. he was a real influence in my life. He had a workshop in his basement. He could, in my mind, could make and fix anything. Always had cool stuff going on down there. And now as an adult, I have my own studio tinkering shop that I exist in. And my great-grandpa actually came to Pittsburgh as a French immigrant in 1900 to be a master glassblower in Swissville. And he and his brother were glassblowers and eventually became bootleggers as well, which is sort of thing-making. But after that, I lose track of the history. And I assume a heritage of tinkers, fishermen, crafters, builders, artisans, and all the way back to maybe some caveman ancestor who made things, a Venus of Willendorf or cave paintings, who was allowed to sit around the fire because he could make cool things. Maybe he wasn't such a good hunter.
So the past of thing making, especially on your lineage, your history, is pretty interesting. And I guess today, Dave and I do a lot of facilitating of thing making. We help kids to make things. So I guess my next question for you, Dave, is maybe about the future of thing making. And where do you see the future of thing making and thing makers heading?
Well, myself, I'm going to always make things. I really can't stop. But as far as like what I prefer to make now, I started off with drawing on paper like a lot of people, clay, paper sculpture, found objects, puppetry, video, fabrics. And it wasn't until recently that I've really found a lot of pleasure in taking a back seat and being less of a thing maker and more of an instigator and drawing that out in other people, and especially kids, and getting them to use their hands to make things. And you know, I'm a little bit concerned about the future of thing making and how these skills are being passed along. Do you have another question for me, or should I just keep rolling?
I think Dave likes to talk, and I sort of take a back seat, if you guys haven't noticed. But I think the people here are sort of anxious for Mitch Cricket, who's on after us. So my only last question to you is, what have you made there today?
Oh, I made, can you get a good shot of it? I made this little guy.
Try to maybe get him in more focus here. We got him in less focus, there we go.
Less focus, more focus. This is how we collaborate. But one last thing, wrapping up, you know, I just think it's inherently human to want to make things. And people will always work with their hands in one way or another. Technology will certainly play a part in that. And that's important and that's great. But I urge us all to not let that overshadow our the simple play that goes into making things, and the tactile experience of making things. Technology can be a great enhancement to accentuate what we do, but actually getting out, getting your hands dirty, playing with clay, maybe cutting yourself with a razor blade by accident or using the wrong tool for the wrong thing, it's a pretty important learning experience. So go out and play and make things and have fun.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.